Today we're going to take a break from the hot toy shelves and take a dive into the history of these vintage Burger King Star Wars glasses. And to timestamp this video, we'll take a quick look at how the Mandalorian and Grogu Burger King cup stands up to the OG OT glasses nearly 50 years later. All of my videos today have focused on my modern 1/6 scale figures and custom dioramas, but I wanted to start to share some stories about the other shelves, most of which focus on vintage Star Wars, the counter figures, the Topps cards, and other artifacts from my childhood, like the Burger King glasses. My vintage collection is a mix of original pieces I've had my whole life and new acquisitions to fill in the gaps in the collection or pick up items I didn't have as a kid. The pieces of the collection that remain from my childhood are all thanks to my mom, and that goes for the Burger King glasses. All but two are ones my brother and I collected as kids. My mom gave them to me a few years back when I started putting this collection out on display here in the garage. I didn't know she saved them, and it's awesome to have the exact same glasses we collected and drank out of almost 50 years ago. So today I wanted to share this collection with you and walk through some of the history of the glasses, the precedents they set, the artists behind them, some interesting trivia, weird Star Wars lore reviews, and we'll take a look at some of the amazing TV commercials that promoted them. And stick around to the end to see how the current Mando BK cups stack up. Spoiler alert, they do not. So let's start at the beginning, 1977. Star Wars comes out in May, and it's an immediate phenomenon. Nobody was ready for it, including the people making the merchandise. Kenner famously did not have toys ready and put together the early bird set to have something to sell for Christmas of '77. It was a cardboard display stand with no figures. Those would arrive separately in the spring of '78. But Burger King and Coke moved fast. In September of 1977, Burger King launched a Star Wars promotion in partnership with the Coca-Cola Company. It started with 4 different posters you could get with the purchase of a Coke, and then the glasses hit restaurants around January of '78. I think the gap between the posters and the glasses was probably due to manufacturing speed. There were 4 designs, released 1 per week, and you had to keep coming back to get the full set. And your Coke came in the glass. Not today. The Mando cup comes in a sealed plastic bag, like it has unopened resale value or something. Give me a break. In 1978, the glass was what your drink came in. You get to look at cool Star Wars art and read about Star Wars characters while eating burgers and fries. Come on, it doesn't get any better than that. I didn't realize this until I started putting this video together, but this Star Wars promo was the first of its kind. It was the first fast food movie promotion. It was before the Happy Meal. Burger King and other companies were doing collectible cups featuring their own brand, but Star Wars was the first co-branded movie tie-in. Every Happy Meal toy tied to a Disney movie, every collectible cup from a Marvel premiere, every Denny's Hobbit menu, all of that. The entire concept of fast food cross-promoting a blockbuster film, it started here. Burger King, Coke, Star Wars, 1977. The posters and glasses were a matching set. Nichols was the artist. He was a painter working out of his studio in Atlanta, Georgia. He painted all 4 poster designs, 18 by 24-inch acrylic paintings, over a single weekend. One weekend, 4 paintings that became some of the most recognizable Star Wars promotion art of the entire original trilogy era. There's a similar Star Wars art story from the same period. The iconic theatrical poster, the Style B one with Luke holding his lightsaber overhead, that was painted by twin brothers Greg and Tom Hildebrand over the course of a few days. Lucas thought the original poster was too dark. He wanted something more comic booky. The Hildebrands painted the piece in 36 hours. Lucas said the poster became the definitive illustration of that galaxy far, far away and called it even more astonishing when you realize it was created in just 36 hours. So between the Hildebrands and Nichols, some of the most beloved Star Wars artwork of the original era was made under insane deadlines by working artists who just showed up and painted their asses off over a weekend. Let's start with the R2-D2 and C-3PO glass. Yes, this particular glass is pretty faded, but you can still appreciate the color palette here, really leaning into the Tatooine binary sunset vibes. It's a mix of iconic moments from the movie like Luke firing widely after witnessing Obi-Wan get cut down by Vader, with images that feel more like movie poster visuals, inspired by the film but not direct lifts of specific frames. The glasses didn't have room for the full poster art, so we lose Leia giving the Death Star plans to R2 and the Sand People and Jawas that were at the bottom of the poster. Obi-Wan has these cool circles emanating from his head, which must be meant to represent the Force. I'm really curious to know what Nichols was working from, like what information did he have about the Force that led him to do that? Because it works, it definitely works, but had he seen the films at this point? Was he working from notes or from a screenplay? The back of every glass has a little blurb about one of the main characters, printed inside an outline of R2-D2. Some have obscure references to things not mentioned in the movies. factoids about alien species, and other idiosyncrasies that Star Wars nerds like me find entertaining. A few things to notice. R2 and 3PO's names are spelled out phonetically. I feel like the early merchandise spelled the droids' names like that way more than anything contemporary does. It's kind of charming. And speaking of droids, they're called robots on these glasses. R2-D2 is an information retrieval and computer repair robot, and C-3PO is called a human-robot relations automation. Pretty accurate description of these guys, except they definitely meant automaton, not automation. I checked the posters since those were produced first, and they say automaton, so typo somewhere in the pipeline of recreating the art for the glasses. The robots instead of droids is worth noting. Lucasfilm trademarked the word droids in 1977, along with the Force. This was before he even trademarked Star Wars, so he clearly felt strongly about how this word helped define his galaxy. But there was no official Lucasfilm Star Wars style guide. Not yet. But we'll see the Lucasfilm merchandising empire get buttoned up between the first set and the second set of glasses. Next up, we've got the Luke Skywalker glass. He's front and center, flanked by smaller images of old Ben and Leia. It's not the best likeness to Carrie Fisher, a theme that runs deep in Star Wars merchandise. Like the droid's glass we just looked at, you can see a few compositional differences in the translation from poster to glass. You can also see some simplification of shading and the addition of some line work to add definition to places like Luke's jawline and Leia's dress. The art was screen printed to the glasses. Basically, the glass rotates around a jig and a little squeegee presses ink through a stencil, one color at a time, to create the image. So the artist had to simplify the original poster designs to fit the glasses and comply with the limitations of screen printing versus acrylic painting. The text on the back describes Luke as the 20-year-old son of a Jedi Knight killed years before by Darth Vader. Straightforward origin story, exactly matching Obi-Wan's version of the events from the film, so the glass lies as confidently as Obi-Wan. Now the Darth Vader glass. This one has a detail in the character text that really surprised me. I'm sure I read this a million times as a kid while eating cereal and drinking OJ from this glass, but I have no memory of this. It refers to Vader as, quote, Lord of the Sith. This title appeared in the 1976 novelization by Alan Dean Foster, and that was based on Lucas's scripted notes. Sith had been around since at least the 1974 rough draft. Quote, General Darth Vader called in, quote, Sith Knight Valorum to track down the rebels. I just remember it being on these glasses. It isn't set on screen until The Phantom Menace. When I was growing up, before the internet, there were all these stories on the playground or the school bus, these bits of trivia and rumors about what the Clone Wars were and who Anakin Skywalker was, and somewhere someone heard Vader got messed up when he fell into a volcano fighting Obi-Wan. All this backstory stuff. You'd hear kids telling stories at a sleepover about what Lucas's plans were for future movies. And weirdly, a lot of that stuff came true, because it was in Lucas's head. Or in one of the yellow notepads somewhere. I remember hearing about the Sith way before the prequels came out. It's just funny to think that, along with things like the novelization, this glass was one of the sources for those playground stories about the off-screen secrets of the Star Wars galaxy. I'd love to hear your playground Star Wars lore stories in the comments. What were the crazy rumors you heard as a kid? Did they come true or not? And while you're down there, if this is the kind of content you like, subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of the shelf breakdowns, both vintage and the modern custom dioramas. Next up is the Chewbacca glass. It features Han and Chewie, but the Wookiee is the centerpiece, and it's his story on the back. The art is great, like an alternative movie poster they didn't end up using. The text on the back describes Chewbacca as being 200 years old. Another example of BK dropping rich lore for the nerds back in the 70s. It's still canon that Chewie was 200 years old in that movie, so no Lucas retcon here. But the last sentence on this glass is a little funky. It reads, his awesome towering appearance and calculating co-piloting capabilities complement Solo's confidence and reckless action in face of attack by Empire forces. In face of attack by Empire forces. What happened there? Was the writer distracted by this even crazier interpretation of old Ben using the Force? Is this what feeling millions of voices suddenly cry out in terror and then be suddenly silenced feels like? Before we move on to the Empire glasses, I want to play the TV commercial for this promo. Because you can look at these glasses and listen to my stories about the late 70s, but nothing will put you in this specific time period better than this spot.
Burger King presents 4 bright, colorful Star Wars glasses.
Hey, it's Luke Skywalker.
And the princess.
Gee, wow!
Get your kids a different Star Wars glass each week. Buy a regular serving of Coke for 59 cents plus tax. Get Chewbacca. Get Darth Vader. R2-D2 and C-3PO.
What mission? What are you talking about?
We can get all 4.
Star Wars glasses at Burger King until August 17th.
Okay, Empire. 1980, 3 years later, Star Wars is now the biggest movie in history, and the merchandising machine is fully operational. Kenner figured out how to make the toys, the vehicles, the playsets. We've got the Sears exclusives, the lunch boxes exist, the bed sheets, the jammies, and Burger King is back with 4 new glasses. A few things changed. The price went up. Depending on where you live, they now ran anywhere from 79 to 88 cents. And the glasses themselves are physically different. The original set has this pedestal base, a little wider at the bottom, kind of elegant. There's some conversation online about how Burger King switched to a new glassware partner for Empire. I couldn't confirm this, but you can see this design has a rounder bottom, and it's a much thicker, heavier design. These glasses feel the most substantial of the 3 films. One more note while I still have these in my hand. They almost certainly contain lead. The AP commissioned lab testing on vintage novelty glassware from this time period and found levels way above modern federal limits for children's products. The lead is in the exterior decoration, not in the glass itself, and it's likely very little transfers during normal handling. Millions of us drank out of these as kids and turned out. Well, here I am making Star Wars videos about glasses on YouTube, so display only. Alright, let's go through these one at a time. Unlike the first set, the poster art is completely different from the glasses, so we're going to skip the comparisons. Starting with R2 and 3PO again. Barrel-shaped R2-D2, a computer repair droid, and human-shaped C-3PO, a protocol droid. No more robots. Protocol droid. Computer repair droid. The language is tighter. There's a style guide somewhere. A book of terms and language. No more air quotes around the Force. You can see the franchise professionalized through each set of glasses. It's not all improvements, though. Next up, Luke. The back text starts with, Luke is the son of a Jedi Knight who was killed years before by the evil Darth Vader. I'm glad they didn't spoil the Vader reveal on the back of a Burger King glass, but I'm starting to think the copywriter on these was one Obi-Wan Kenobi. The certain point of view version of the lore sounds very familiar. And I dig this slate blue version of his Dagobah Bespin fatigues. It's a cool alternate reality version of that iconic costume. Probably just an artistic choice, so there was something colorful on the glass and not just a bunch of greens and browns and tans. Now on to Vader. 3 years ago, he was Enforcer for Grand Moff Tarkin. On this glass, he's Chief Enforcer of the Galactic Emperor. Definite promotion from movie to movie and glass to glass. The art on this one's a heavy hitter. In addition to Vader, you got Boba Fett, some snowtroopers, and even IG-88 poking up over the Dark Lord's shoulder. And check out the trippy space art in the background. I think there's just a straight-up flying saucer behind Boba Fett's head. Lando's not a system, he's a glass. I was 4 when Empire came out. I didn't get the subtlety of this situation Vader put him in. To me, he was just the guy who betrayed Han, Leia, and Chewie and almost got Luke killed. I hated Lando for years. It took me 2/3 of Jedi to even consider he might be a good guy who wasn't going to stab them in the back at some point. And the glass gives it up. It says right there that Lando betrays Han Solo to Darth Vader. Just fully spoils it. They probably would have put the Vader spoiler on the glass if anyone other than George Lucas and Larry Kasdan knew about that before the day of shooting. But spoilers were generally treated different back then. Even when Episode 1 came out in 1999, the soundtrack came out before the movie and had a track titled Qui-Gon's Noble End. Okay, let's take a look at the commercial. I think it's the least interesting of the 3. I'm sure the editors were working their asses off in 1980 to do all this compositing for a Burger King commercial, but outside of that, it's pretty straightforward.
Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. And Burger King comes through again with our all-new Empire Strikes Back glasses. Collect a different glass for your family each week. Darth Vader, R2-D2 and C-3PO, Lando Calrissian, Luke Skywalker.
Buy a regular-sized Coca-Cola at a special price and build your collection.
All new, The Empire Strikes Back glasses. Only at Burger King.
So that's the Empire set. 4 glasses, new shape, new text format, new price. The vocabulary was cleaned up, the glassware got an upgrade. I'd say the artwork doesn't feel as iconic as the first set. So let's see what changes from Empire to Jedi. 1983, Return of the Jedi, the grand finale. I was 7, the perfect age for Star Wars. I had already consumed so much Star Wars at this age, but this is the theatrical experience and the movie promotion experience that I remember most vividly. This is the deluxe program we purchased at the theater on opening weekend, and these are the actual ticket stubs from that show. I can't believe my mom kept these, but it's so amazing to still have them. I obsessed over this program. Back then, the movies stayed in the theater way longer, but then it was years before they would show up on TV and VHS. The toys and books and things like this program are the way we relive the movies. Anyways, that's just to say, I was the perfect age for Jedi and had the most vivid memories of this era of Star Wars. For the glasses, the price came back down to around the same price as the original set, but the glass itself is much thinner, cheaper. You can feel the cost cutting to keep the sticker price low. These feel like collectibles versus glassware meant for daily use. The format on the back also changed. Instead of character bios, we get scene descriptions, summaries of moments from the movie. It's way more see-say. It just describes the art versus giving us any little nuggets of lore to boost our schoolyard nerd cred. Let's check out the commercial, because while the glasses didn't get an upgrade, the commercial sure did.
Burger King presents Return of the Jedi glasses. 4 new glasses from the Star Wars saga. Thrill to the adventures of Luke Skywalker, the Ewoks, Han Solo, and Jabba the Hutt. Buy a medium or large Coke, and a different glass is yours each week for a special price. Collect all 4. Return of the Jedi glasses, now appearing only at Burger King.
First, we get a Burger King parody of the 20th Century Fox logo that has become synonymous with Star Wars. And am I crazy, or do they build custom spaceships for this ad? There's some kind of Burger King Millennium Falcon with 2 radar dishes and no cockpit, and a giant Burger King logo right on the center of it, and a NASCAR Vader TIE Fighter with a giant Burger King logo on the back. I love it. Hats off to the Star Wars nerds at the production company who got to make a Burger King Falcon for this commercial. I hope somebody still has it. And check out that typeface. That retro pulpy title treatment on the character names, it really feels like the same kind of vibe they've gone for with a lot of the Mandalorian and Grogu materials. The typeface and the logo, the trailers, a lot of the other marketing materials have the same kind of retro pulp energy. I'm not saying the graphic designers of the new movie were looking at a 1983 Burger King commercial for inspiration, and much of Lucas's inspiration came from pulp cereals, but it's interesting to see that vibe come back around 40-some years later. Okay, the glasses. Jabba's Palace. This one describes Jabba as an intergalactic gangster, which we all knew by this point. It mentions Salacious Crumb by name, Princess Leia being held captive by a pig-like Gamorrean guard, and the Max Rebo Band providing entertainment for the court. We get some cool character name drops. I don't know how many of these names were widely known before the glasses were distributed, but again, this was before the internet, so I'm sure a lot of people learned these names and characters from places like these glasses. The artwork is decent, again, not as unique as the Star Wars glasses, but good illustrations of Jabba's menagerie. Makes me wonder why they didn't do a cantina glass for the first movie. It's such an iconic scene, and the one that does the heaviest lifting in terms of putting the audience in a galaxy far, far away. Second glass, we're staying on Tatooine. Mostly. It's the Sarlacc pit. The text reads, "In the Tatooine desert, Han Solo takes aim with his laser pistol while Luke Skywalker brandishes his Jedi lightsaber above the Sarlacc pit. In the background, Jabba the Hutt's giant sail barge bursts into flames." It's a nitpick, but Han isn't taking aim in the Tatooine desert. He's clearly in front of the bunker on Endor. This is another situation where you imagine the artist working with various still photos or frames from the movie and creating this art thinking that the image of Han shooting in front of the bunker is from Tatooine, or just figuring it was the best visual for the composition and prioritizing that over continuity. The Ewok Village glass. At the Ewok Village on the green moon of Endor, Chief Chirpa holds his staff preparing to go into the forest, while Wicket W. Warwick inspects R2-D2. Over on the village square, baby Ewoks surround the golden droid C-3PO. We get like 95% of that just by looking at the art. Chief Chirpa's name, Endor, Wicket, that's literally all we learn from this text. Give me some playground lore, Burger King. And the final glass, the throne room. This one has some cool character art. We get this wild shot of Luke and Vader crossing sabers where the blades look like they're about to explode or set everything on fire. Like, if they looked like this in the movies, they would feel terrifying to hold. Cool images of the Emperor, the royal guards, the creepy dignitaries, but that's it. No secrets, no lore drops. I mean, if you're gonna drop a weird reference about the dark side or the Sith, this is the glass to do it on. Who are the weird dignitaries? Drop the name Palpatine or something. Throw 7-year-old me a bone. One more thing as we wrap up the Jedi glasses. Like all things vintage Star Wars, there are variants. Different glass shapes, different ink quality, US and Canadian versions, but the most interesting and distinctive variant are these plastic ones they made for Jedi, but only in Massachusetts. Apparently Massachusetts passed a law in 1982 banning glass as a gift with purchase. So when the Jedi promotion launched in 1983, Burger King had to produce a plastic version of the cups just for that state. And that's the full set. 3 movies, 12 glasses, with some interesting lore drops, inconsistencies, and mistakes along the way. And that's a big part of what makes collecting the vintage stuff so fun. The glasses, the figures, the packaging, they're all artifacts of the same imperfect pipeline between filmmakers and the merchandise producers. Designers and copywriters at these licensees were working with whatever Lucasfilm provided, which was often partial, early, or ambiguous. The mistakes aren't always mistakes. They're evidence of how these artifacts got made. They're the details that make collecting all these things interesting. It's at least as much about the stories behind the objects as the objects themselves. And by the way, you can get all these on eBay for like 10 or 20 bucks a piece. Go get the set. Not because they're a wildly valuable investment. They're not. But they look amazing. And they're a cool part of not just Star Wars history, but the history of collectibles and fast food blockbuster movie tie-ins. And what's more American than that? Now let's take a look at the current state of Star Wars Burger King promotional drinkware. The 2026 Burger King Mandalorian and Grogu collectible cup. 32 ounces of plastic. Standard Disney character renders, the same art that's on every piece of licensed Mandalorian merchandise right now. No credited artist, no original artwork commissioned for the promotion. The side graphics are the same on all 4 cups. Only the character at the front changes. No text on the back, no character bios, no lore, no typos, no personality. It comes in a sealed plastic bag, separate from your meal, like it's a collectible. And technically it is. A complete set of 4 is currently going for about $8 on eBay, new and sealed. In 1977, Burger King and Coke commissioned an artist named Nichols to paint 4 original works in acrylic, art that appeared nowhere else in the Star Wars marketing universe. They printed it on real glass drinkware, and your Coke came in it. You walked out of Burger King with an actual piece of original Star Wars art for 59 cents. I'm not trying to be the guy who says everything was better back in the day. It wasn't. Lead paint on glasses targeted at children isn't cool. But come on, there's no comparison here. One of these is a 10 out of 10 piece of industry trend-setting Star Wars merchandise crafted by artists. And one is none of those things. This was a little different from the usual diorama deep dive, but I've got 3 vintage shelves, some bookshelves with a few interesting, unique items, and I think they all have stories worth telling. Let me know in the comments if you have any of these glasses, and if you still drink out of them. And if you're new to the channel, click all the buttons, subscribe to all the things. I've got a lot more shelves to show you.